So on YouTube, there's lots of book recommendations. You could literally get lost in recommendations every day. And we've got some more for you. Actually, we just have a few books that we think are underappreciated, that we want to be able to share why we love them and why we think you should read them.
I like it.
All right.
From start, or am I starting?
I'll start.
Okay.
All right. First one. This is Lock In by John Scalzi.
It's a good one.
It is freaking phenomenal. Now, John Scalzi, I think, does have a pretty good following. A lot of people like his First Empire series, Collapsing Empire series, and a few others that he does. But this is my favorite of his. Right? It tells the story of kind of buddy cop combo where one of them is an android, right, for lack of a better word. He uses a robot body to get around. He's alive and is a somewhat akin to a quadriplegic. He's in a bed and is famous because he has a disease that affects a big part of the world.
Hayden's disease.
Hayden's disease, yep. Affects a big part of the world, and it was, I think he was the first one, something like that, first one to get it, something like that, so he's super famous. But because all these people basically can't do anything, they've built these robots that they can then communicate with their mind and control them and basically live through them. And so they're called locked in, right? They're locked in their bodies, but they can then use these robots to do their daily life and different things. And so he is a cop, and you follow his escapades. Phenomenal book. Really, really good. One of the few books I'm like, I don't understand how it's not a TV show or a movie or something. It just is so cinematic, so fun, and super interesting world.
It's really quick and easy too.
Yeah, just phenomenal all the way around. And I would recommend, as much as the book is great, the audiobook that's narrated by Will Wheaton, yeah, phenomenal.
Will Wheaton, I'm sold.
Yep. Anyways, doesn't get enough credit. Totally pick it up. Definitely read it. You'll love it.
Okay, Christina Lauren is this author, and I feel like she's got a good following too. She's got a handful of good books out.
Yep.
This is Love and Other Words, and it just wasn't on my radar really. It kind of just took me by surprise. So when I read it, I was like, oh, that was really good, really cute. Like I enjoyed all of it. There's like, it's slightly unbelievable towards the end.
Okay.
But it doesn't bother me. Like it wrapped up really nicely.
Is this romance?
Romance.
You set the stage for us? Like what's the...
There's two best friends that grew up next to each other, sort of. It's like her vacation home. So every time she'd come to the vacation home, the cute little shy boy next door is there, and they like hung out in her room, and she had like this closet nook that was a book, like a library. So they bonded over books. They'd read books, and they had like a word of the day kind of thing. So hence the title. It's really cute, but it's taking place in two different timelines. So it's taking place like back then, like their summers together, and then now. So you get to kind of piece it all together.
So it's basically the book version of that Bluey episode where they're camping and they see the friend every time. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
I love that episode. Probably a great book. All right. Next one I have is Nicholas Eames' Kings of the Wild. Kings in the Wild? Kings of the Wild. I know Nicholas Eames gets talked about a little bit on here, and I know this book gets talked about a bunch, but it just does not get enough credit for what it does. It is one of the best books I've ever read where the main character is not the leader of the band. I don't know the best way to say that other than that. And coming back to that, this is really the premise. The premise is that mercenary bands are treated in this world like rock bands. They go on tours, they show up to arenas and fight monsters in front of people, and when they do that, they become famous and get all of the adulation and everything that comes with being a rock band. And so you follow a group of kind of retired older rockers as they go on tour again. And the main character you're following is effectively a backup singer. In fact, if you think about all the kind of cool weapons you have and different things, whatever, his thing is a shield. He's got a shield. That's what he does. It's a shield, which I just love because it's not the like flaming sword or the magic. I don't know, all whatever stuff. It's just a shield, and it really reflects his character. He's a very just sturdy guy, really good. But it's just really fun to be in that world and to see this kind of idea brought to light in such a wonderful way. And it just doesn't get enough credit. I don't hear Nicholas Eames' name mentioned around kind of the best modern fantasy writers. I think it should be there, and this book is a big reason why.
Fun.
All right.
So you might hear me talk about this again because this was definitely one of my favorites of the whole year. Book number 2 I don't know, what's this? The Farseer trilogy.
Oh, freaking so
By
good.
Robin Hobb. So the book number 2 is called Royal Assassin, and I loved it. I loved it so much. So my qualms with book number 1 is it's so much world building and so much like so much going on that it's hard to enjoy it because you're like learning so much and you have to follow and you don't really know what's going to happen and who really everyone is. So by the time you get to book 2, you're there. You're ready to just enjoy it. You know what's going on, and you just fall in love with all the characters. Loved it so much.
It's interesting. So I had lunch with a friend this past week, and we were talking about books, and I mentioned this series. He said, I read book 1, and it just didn't do it for me. And I was like, you just got to keep reading.
Yeah.
Like I don't know how to tell you other than the Elderling Saga, which is what this is part of. It's a 16-book series, and it is phenomenal.
But let me tell you, this is only I'm counting this as a trilogy. So I'm done with the trilogy. I'll keep going, but
yes.
It's so nice that it's broken up.
The way that it's written is it's a bunch of different. There's a trilogy. There's a few different trilogies. There's some with 4, but so it's definitely storylines broken up in a larger story that's propelling. And so you can read this. There's even people that skip different parts of it. I wouldn't do that if I were you, but there are groups that skip different things. But the main character and arc through kind of all of it is Fitz, who's the main character in here. Even though he doesn't appear in some of the trilogies, it's still him moving the plot a lot of times. Phenomenal book.
It's so good. So I felt the same way as your friend. I finished the first one. I was like, okay, that was pretty good. I wasn't in a hurry to get to the second one. Then once I finished this one, I was like, holy crap, give me number 3. Like, loved it. It's just so good.
Yep, I can't wait for you to do the next trilogy because, oh my goodness,
I'm getting there. I'll get there.
Good.
Probably.
Yeah, Robin Hobb, Elderling Saga, like. When you think of the best fantasy series of all time, people mention Game of Thrones. People mention Brandon Sanderson's work. People are going to mention Wheel of Time, right? Lord of the Rings. In my opinion, the Elderling Saga is right up there with all of them. In fact, I sometimes debate whether it's not the best or it's second or third best there. To me, it's really fighting with Wheel of Time and Stormlight Archive for the best.
Holy cow.
It is that good a book. So, yes, it does not get enough credit.
Yeah,
it's excellent.
Pretty blown away.
Yeah, very much so. Speaking of Brandon Sanderson, the man himself, Brandon Sanderson writes a lot of books.
It's so funny.
Right? And so there's some books I think get its due, and then others that just get pushed by the wayside a little bit. Some of his kind of more middle grade stuff, so it's even less than YA, it's actually excellent. Right? And so I wanted to highlight this one. This is Alcatraz and Evil Librarians, a phenomenal book. Really funny. Some people don't quite get the humor.
I got the humor.
Okay. Some people just don't see the vision, but it's excellent here. The premise basically is that there's evil librarians that are withholding access from the general population of knowledge of this extra continent that's out in the middle of the Pacific Ocean where there's people with special talents. And the talents can be all sorts of things. In fact, Alcatraz's talent is breaking things. He breaks things in extraordinary ways. His grandfather, who's one of the main characters that you follow, has a special talent of arriving late, which is really, really fun to be able to see some of those type of things. And so you use these magical talents to be able to tell a really fascinating story as they battle the evil librarians through 5 books right now, and then there's a 6th one coming out, which is actually kind of more of a side thing, but just really good. It doesn't, I think, get enough credit when it comes to Brandon Sanderson's best work. Brandon Sanderson. Anyway, when it comes to Brandon's best work, it is really, really good. Highly recommend it. Also very short. Right? I mean, you can power through this in an afternoon pretty easily here, and I would really recommend it. And give you some context. Like we're talking about, it's got pictures, right? I mean, this is really middle grade type of stuff, but really good. I can maybe talk like Artemis Fowl if you've read those type of books.
Yeah.
Very much in that style, but Sanderson, I think, is at his funniest in these books.
There's some good humor in there.
Definitely great. Highly recommend and definitely underappreciated.
Okay, so this one, it was popular. This is Anxious People by Frederick Bachman.
Okay.
It was popular, but then it just disappeared. Why is no one talking about this book still? Like, it's a
Did everybody read
book.
it? Yeah, so that's why no one's talking about it anymore?
I feel like maybe.
Maybe?
No, because people are talking about stuff that they should have read ages ago. So
Fair.
I don't understand why it's still not, like, up there talking about.
Do you think it's one of those things where, particularly, I think there's a brand of books that I would call TikTok books.
Yeah.
Right? And I think they get a wave of interest, and then it kind of dies out because you can't keep talking about those books on TikTok to stay popular.
You know, that's true.
So I wonder if that's it, right? It had its TikTok wave, and you can't come back to it.
Maybe we need to talk about TikTok waves.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. But in this type of thing where it's a longer form, you can talk about some of these types of stuff.
Yeah, I totally agree. How fascinating. Anyway, this book is really well written. It drove me crazy for the first, like, fourth of the book. I was just like, I can't even handle this. But then by the time it all ends and wraps up, you're like, oh, all of that was happening for a reason, and all the stuff that was driving me crazy, like, makes so much sense now. So hang in there if you just started it and don't like it, but it's so good. So this random hodgepodge group of people are walking through an apartment, like, as a open house to see if they're going to buy this apartment, when a robber runs in, and fresh from the bank, having robbed the bank, and, like, now they're all hostages in this situation. And just each person's perspective, each person's, like, reaction, yeah, it was really well done. And it ended so neatly and it just had lots of life lessons and good morals and very fascinating book.
Wow, awesome.
5 stars.
You know, interesting. I've never had a desire to read that, but that little thing also makes me think, like, oh, maybe that'd be worth picking up. That'd be an interesting scenario.
He's in a funk. I'll put that on his
I am
nightstand.
kind of in a funk. I'm in the middle of The Once and Future King. I'm just struggling. I've always wanted to read it, but it's just, I need it. I don't know. Maybe this week I'll get it all done.
Sad.
Anyways. All right, well, this has been Books We Think Were Underappreciated. I'm curious what books you think are underappreciated.
Yes, please tell us.
Yeah, what things we could add to our reading list.
It's so fun to just find a gem where you're not expecting it, or, like, you hear it's okay, so you read it, and it's like, holy cow, that was really good. So.
Well, you know, I wonder how many things are out there that are like Anxious People, or, you know, the Farsi or trilogy or things like that, where people have shared a whole bunch of times, like, oh, you should read it, and it just didn't hit at the right time or whatever it was.
Yeah.
And now, you know, if someone shared it again, if you come back to it. And so I'm really curious to see which ones, if you would think these are underappreciated, we should pick them up and read them, because we probably will.
We probably will.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for watching.
Yeah, I'm Blake.
I'm Jamie.
And we're Blamey.
I guess so.
We'll see you later.
Bye.